Part 54. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 532. I can't really comment, but the song you taught the destroyer was so weird. Sugu explained, as I said, I didn't teach them, they learned it on their own. There had been a huge misunderstanding. As a high-ranking admiral, someone would think that I had bad thoughts towards the cute little loli. It was really a huge injustice for Junfeixiu. Even if you are not a hateful lolicon, you are still a lolicon. Well, there is no hateful lolicon and a hateful lolicon. All lolicons are hateful and shameful. There was no need to leave the matter to Lexington, the misunderstanding was easily resolved. Originally, it was just a song, but some things can never be explained clearly. From Hai-Ai's strange eyes, Sugu knew clearly that he had been forced to join the "Would You Like Some Rabbits Today" club. I can't explain it to you. I'm not a lolicon. I'm very serious. Sugiyang raised his hand and said with a free and easy look, whatever you think is fine. If you are upright, you won't be afraid of slanted shadows. Anyway, when they come back, don't think about taking Suk Bader and Odin away. We have Bismarck on our left and the Prince of Wales on our right. We have two big thugs around us. No matter who they are just small potatoes. The battle cruiser Hai-Ai, well, okay, there are only Saratoga who laughs wildly and York who laughs so hard that he slaps the railing. City. Xiaozai didn't know why the two sisters were so funny. She was only curious about Suk Bader and Odin standing next to them. She reached out and slapped Suk Bader's face with both hands, rubbing it hard, with a face full of surprise. Really, why are you back? Saratoga managed to suppress her laughter and said unscrupulously, they were sent back by courier, just like before. Odin explained, I was not brought back by courier before, Suk Bader was. Suk Bader was heartless. Instead, she drew a big circle in the sky with her hands. This was the limit of how far her arms could stretch to express how big it was. What a big container. It's super comfortable. It's right at the dock. Do you want to see it? The performance was already over, and in fact all the destroyers ran into the corridor. Of course, there was no way to continue the class, so the get out of class ended like this. They don't have to take the exam anyway. It's very likely that they will be little Lolita for the rest of their lives, with adults around to protect them for the rest of their lives. Classes not only allow them to increase their knowledge and skills, but also restrain them from having fun all day long. They also heard Suk Bader's words and were eager to go to the dock. They all looked at Sugu, received his affirmative look, and then they all ran away. Tianlong and Long Tian also walked out. Tianlong held the teaching materials. Admiral, every time you come here, the class will become messy. This is true, no matter whether it is a handicraft class or a home economics class. As the Admiral, Sugu only needs to be there. A group of little Lolita will always act out around him, trying to be exaggerated, or acting weird next to him to attract attention. Sugu was helpless. What can I do? The solution is, don't come over casually during class. After all, there were outsiders here, so they didn't say much, so they just said something and left. Leaning against the railing, Hai-Ai looked at the backs of Suk Bader and Odin leaving, and there was only one feeling in her heart. I have worked so hard to support you for so long, and even though you know I won't be here for long, you don't stay with me for a while. You really have no conscience at all. Thinking about it, she knew very well that a little girl didn't have so many ideas. The leaning movement changed to lying down, and she lowered her head to look down from the upstairs. She saw the little loli who ran out of the building first. Anyway, Suk Bader and Odin are left to you. Saratoga complained, it was originally ours, so it should be returned to us. Her voice was so low that no one could hear it. Sugu said, I will take good care of them, don't worry. Even though he explained clearly, Hai-Ai rolled his eyes at him, I'm only worried about you. Hai-Ai's words made people uncomfortable. However, as a ship girl, there is no doubt that they are all good people, good people. Some ship girls are still bad people and have the character of a holy mother. Of course, good and bad exist objectively. Perhaps they may sometimes do things unsatisfactorily and play the role of bad guys. After all, there is never anything in the world that satisfies everyone. But they are definitely not those who only use their keyboards and mouths to let others work hard and contribute. Sugu was still very grateful to Bairui and said, "I'll take you to visit other places." Hai pursed her lips, and she shook her head, "I'm not going, I'm going." "At least have a meal at the governor's mansion." Sugu looked at Hai and still shook his head. "How about going to the cafe for a drink?" "There's no need to be so polite. I have something to do. The freighter is still waiting for me outside. Anyway, I will come to your townhouse again in the future to see how they are doing." Saratoga whispered again, "I really regard Sukbader and Odin as my own." Sugu heard it this time. He reached out and knocked his sister-in-law on the head and said, "You are welcome at any time." Not long after, standing on the edge of the dock, two young girls waved to Hai who was standing on the freighter. "Hai-sama, the two of us will visit you later." Hai said unceremoniously, "It's just the two of you, so don't come. I'm afraid something will happen to you. Be obedient in the town hall and don't run around." Sukbader put his hands on his hips, "I am the best in the world." "Yes, yes, you are number one in the world," Hai shouted loudly. "Master Suk, there is everything in your dreams." After seeing off the Hai and standing at the dock, Saratoga whispered, "Brother-in-law, it's a pity." "What a pity?" "She's gone and you can't catch the boat." "I didn't want to bail out the boat." "It's not that easy to bail out the boat. Isn't Missouri simple?" "Not everyone is Missouri." "Well, it makes Missouri seem easy to deal with. She doesn't even call her Admiral now." As he spoke, Sugu laughed to himself. "Missouri seems to be really easy to deal with, at least the first step is no problem. It's not like Colossus or Plan M. In fact, it's quite familiar and there's nothing we can do about it." But think about it, to a certain extent, picking up Missouri depends not just on the Admiral's personal charm, but more on the charm of the entire garrison. Let's not discuss Hai-Ai's matter. The young girl supply ship is back. The town hall is not big, so the news that they were couriered back quickly spread in the town hall. I don't know why it spread so fast, and how many factors involved in Sugu's embarrassment are involved. Anyway, York City has always been happy, and she is the culprit. The return of the supply ship is a big event, but it is also a small matter, and it does not have much impact on anyone. They are not anyone's sisters, nor anyone's relatives and friends. Apart from their identity as a supply ship and being a young girl, there is nothing special about them. The most people in the game participated in the fish frying, and no one in the garrison came through the fish frying. Sugu already had the ship girl pointed out by the fish frying. In fact, to Sugu, they are not too special. In a real sense, they are strangers. From a game perspective, supply ships are rare, yet they are pragmatic. The only difference was that he devoted a lot of love to Xiaozai. Even if it is not of much use, after obtaining it, he immediately changes to the secretary ship and reaches the full level immediately. Besides, they are not like Lexington, who has been with you from the beginning of the game. The portrait is exquisite and it is a powerful battleship. At the same time, due to various fanarts on the internet, I came here with a lot of expectations for Lexington. Of course, the game has finally passed, and now we have responsibility. Looking at the blinking little girl, Sugu would still show great concern. Everything was fine. This afternoon, he and Counterattack arranged their rooms for the two little girls. Discovering a small accident still made him fail to live up to his responsibilities. Counterattack prepared bedding for the two of them, including soft quilts and fluffy pillows. After setting up the herringbone ladder, Sugu installed curtains for them, and also hung up beautiful wind chimes. A desk lamp was placed for them on the small desk under the bed, as well as a small potted plant donated from their own room, which contained cute succulent plants. In addition, many comic books were stuffed into the small bookcase. It doesn't take long for the whole room to feel cozy. After handling everything, even as an adult, he still wanted to be praised and recognized. Sugu said, "Sukbader, Odin, the room I prepared for you is not bad." "Very good." Sukbader nodded. "Just, can I sleep in the container at night?" The corner of his mouth twitched. Sugu wondered, "Isn't the room I gave you good?" "But I like the box, it's so fun." It is frustrating that a young girl at this age has no way of understanding the good intentions of adults. For example, I don't like expensive foie gras and caviar, but I like cheap candies. However, young girls don't know how to choose, so adults can only give them a choice. "Don't even think about it, I'll have the container pushed into the sea." "Ah." Sugu nodded in agreement. Of course, he just said it casually. To tidy up the room, Sukbader and Odin must be present. The room was almost tidy, and the small house appeared at the door. She plans to take the supply ship to see her collection, just like she did with Longxiang. After all, she knows one thing very well: if wealth does not return to its hometown, it is like walking at night in brocade clothes. Originally, he wanted to tell Xiaozai to take Sukbader and Odin to play well, but Sugu saw Xiaozai holding a black cat in one hand. He knew very well that Xiaozai was very naughty in the guardhouse, and he was like a gangster boss. He gathered a group of people to bully Amethyst all day long, although there was a reason why Amethyst wanted to die. "Xiaozai, you have been robbing Yu81's little wolf, and now you are robbing Sukbader's cat." "Without saying I want it, I prefer it." Xiaozai put his hands under the cat's forelimbs and lifted the cat up. The black cat became very long. Xiaozai showed his head from behind the cat that had turned into a single cat and said confidently, "This is not Sukbader's cat, this is my cat." Sugu breathed out, "Why is it your cat?" "Sister Meow's cat is my cat." Suddenly lightning flashed in my heart. The cat was Bismarck's pet, the black cat Oscar. In the game, he stuffed it into Sukbader's equipment slot. Cat, Oscar, cat, Bismarck. Thinking over and over again in his mind, Sugu smiled and said, "We are almost done here. Xiaozai, you take Odin and leave first. Sukbader stays and waits for you. Come and call her." Seeing that only himself, counterattack, and Sukbader were left in the room, Sugu looked as if nothing had happened. "Sukbader likes fishing, right?" The little girl actually wanted to follow Xiaozai and leave first, but when she was called down, she nodded heavily. "I like it. I have a sea rod that can lift fish of any weight." "Can whales do that too?" "Are you trying to embarrass me with such pure intentions?" Sugu knocked on the desk. "Of course not. Well, I have a complete set of fishing gear, including hand rods, sea rods, a complete set of fishing lines and hooks of various specifications, and support rods. Fish guard, dip net, parasol, fishing gear bag. The garrison is on the beach, so how could we not prepare fishing rods? Although I bought the fishing rod and all kinds of fishing gear, I tried it a few times and didn't have much patience. Now the complete set of fishing gear is just sitting in the warehouse." Sukbader's eyes shone brightly. Her boat suit was not good for fishing and could only catch squid. "I want it." It's hard to raise a pet. Seeing Sukbader's expression unchanged and completely confused, Sugu coughed and said, "Let's change. You give me Oscar, and I'll give you a complete set of fishing gear." Sukbader said with regret, "My Oscar." Sugu chuckled, "My fishing gear, a complete set of fishing gear." In the end the deal was reached. Sukbader received a complete set of fishing gear, and Sugu obtained ownership of the black cat Oscar. After Sukbader left, he looked at the counter-attack standing by the window and said with pride, "As long as I win the Oscar, I can immediately claim credit with Bismarck." "No, why should I claim credit? I can use it to blackmail Bismarck. If she doesn't agree to my request, she won't want to get Oscar back. She looks cold and serious, but in fact she is the most emotional person, and she must also be very affectionate towards Oscar. The counterattack was putting the finishing touches on it. It wasn't you who took it away from Bismarck and gave it to Suk Bader." Sugu complained, "I gave her Mk6 and Type 91 armor-piercing bullets. Anyway, I don't care, now I have Oscar. Everyone will be affected by Sugu. Even the innocent and lovely little maid has learned bad things." She said, "Just leave it alone, I remind you. You only remember Bismarck and Bismarck's Oscar. You forgot that you promised Kent? You promised her that when Suk Bader comes back, return the ferocious tiger to her. Kent is going to cry, just wait and eat London's cake." After a pause, he really didn't think of Kent for a moment. Sugu refused to admit defeat on the surface, showing an expression of everything is under control. Luya has been poor for 3 generations, and fishing in Taiwan will ruin his life. As long as Suha Bader touches it, she shouldn't even think about coming out in one piece. What's the meaning? If you don't understand, it's hard for me to tell you. Hateful appearance. Sugu snorted lightly and counterattacked, "Do you still want to get close to Suk Bader in the future? I want to rub their heads, I want to kiss their faces, I want to pick them up, but do I need their consent?" A lolicon with a hideous appearance. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 533. Sugu didn't feel much guilt for robbing the Black Cat Oscar on the supply ship Suk Bader. Unlike in the game, these little pets have attributes, just like equipment. There is not much use here except for viewing. Perhaps it can also be said that it has improved attributes. You can carry it with you. When artillery fire comes, you can raise the pet in your hand to block it in front. I don't know what the result will be, but it will probably have some effect. Besides, even if someone takes them away, these pets are still considered public pets. Anyone can touch it, hold it, and rub it. Returning the Oscar to Bismarck doesn't mean that everyone can't play. It should only be said that Oscar's cat nest, cat climbing frame, etc. should be placed in Bismarck's room. At the same time, Oscars originally belonged to Bismarck. Although they were considered a type of shipsuit, they were also supernormal beings with feelings. Just like the 3 little wolves of the submarine U-81, Berg, Otto, and Friedrich, no matter who is picked up, they will always run to U-81's side as soon as they are out of control. Having feelings is not about giving it to someone, but whoever it is the owner. In the end, Oscar was taken away with only a full set of fishing gear, which showed that Suk Bader didn't care at all. Anyway, while thinking about it, Sugu walked around the town guard mansion. No one was seen in the room, and Bismarck was found in a training room in the complex. In other words, the fitness room is similar, since it has multiple functions. The training room that exists for physical exercise is not so much for serving everyone, but more for Sugu's consideration. Bismarck always teaches Sugu some fighting skills here, so that if everyone is not around, he can protect himself as an admiral. At the same time, we are not real battleships after all. As humanoid beings, learning some fighting is also useful, and everyone has a use. There are boxing sandbags hanging in the training room, as well as some ordinary fitness equipment such as dumbbells, and there are not many large fitness equipment. In addition, the ground was covered with thick cotton pads. Although the ship girl would not be easily injured, it would still hurt if she fell. As an ordinary person, Sugu would most likely be injured if he was kicked down and fell to the ground, so cotton pads were essential. Bismarck was not alone here at this time. Bismarck would never come here alone. There was also York City sitting cross-legged on the ground. When York City saw Sugu walking into the training room, he immediately shouted, "Sister Sue." Being a war maniac, York City consulted Bismarck here. In fact, as an aircraft carrier, it is said that she only needs to practice more carrier-based aircraft control techniques. However, when she was practicing at the dock, Long Xiang always liked to comment and shake his head. Now she only practices carrier-based aircraft when a group of little girls are in class. To be honest, it was also by chance that she defeated Sugu in the training room and called Sugu a weak chicken, which made her feel very good. From then on, she became interested in fighting. Later, he defeated Sugu again, and was knocked down by Bismarck 2 or 3 times in a state of triumph. She called Bismarck Sister Bismarck, then called Master Bismarck on a whim, and finally called Sugu Junior Brother. The call didn't count, and in the end he happily called Sugu Sister Sue. Seeing Sugu furious, she thought she had finally found the Admiral's weakness, and now she was completely obsessed with fighting. Anyway, as an aircraft carrier, except for the Hornet, it is always at the bottom, and there is not much pursuit. Sugu had nothing to do with himself as a disobedient ship girl. He could only growl, "Shut up." But York City didn't give up and called out again, "Sister Sue, please give me your advice." Taking a breath to calm down his anger, Sugu said seriously, "Don't make jokes around, I came to see Bismarck for business. If there is serious business, you will definitely be with Lexington by your side. Don't lie to me. York City is amazing." After praising her, Sugu looked at his York City in surprise. This girl was getting smarter as she studied. She was indeed not a natural fool like Quincy. At the same time, seeing Sugu's surprised expression, York City snorted and raised her chin proudly, "When was I not awesome?" York City looked like he was in need of a beating, but Sugu said unceremoniously, "She looks like a silly girl." "Fool, who are you talking about? If you ignore York City and keep entangled with her, you won't have to talk about things all day long." Sugu looked at Bismarck, sizing him up while thinking about what kind of request he should make. Bismarck stood by the window. Since he had just trained, he took off his windbreaker and was only wearing a white shirt. She has a slender figure and cool short silver gray hair. She should be handsome, but she is a little uneasy. Being looked at with aggressive eyes, but the other person was his admiral and the person closest to him, so he could only pull his collar and see if there was anything wrong with him. "Admiral, what do you want from me?" Bismarck's voice was always cold. However, Sugu was used to it and didn't care. "I can't come to you if I have nothing to do. You are my wedding ship, my wife." Bismarck brushed his bangs, feeling very happy in his heart, but still cold on the surface. York City didn't feel like a light bulb at all. "Choo choo choo, the dog food is so delicious." "That's enough, Yorktown." York City blinked, raised his hands, palms facing Sugu, and pushed, "Okay, okay, I won't talk anymore." Sugu signaled Bismarck to move, "Let's go over there and have something to say to you. It's settled here." In fact, Bismarck was really afraid of Sugu. If there were only two people getting along, he would do anything and it would be difficult for him to come up with a solution. Sugu glanced at York City, and the girl bared her teeth at him. Thinking that it didn't matter if the light bulb was around, he said, "Bismarck, do you know that Suk Bader is back?" "I know." Bismarck nodded, of course she understood. He is not an idiot, nor is Bazai just sitting around doing nothing all day long and paying no attention to anything. The two little girls are back, how could they not know? Having made up his mind, Sugu said, "I mean, your black cat is called Oscar, do you want to take it back?" "If possible, that would be the best." Bismarck saw Sugu hesitate to speak. She knew Sugu's temper very well. In the past, he was serious and polite, and he would never say anything frivolous, but now he has become extremely lazy. Compared to ship girls, people change too easily. In addition, maybe that is his nature as an admiral. If you want to make any demands on me, forget it, whoever wants Oscar can have it. Unexpectedly, Bismarck didn't care so much. Sugu was shocked. That's your cat, the super cute Oscar, don't you even care? I don't care if you care, you won't say it. There is no other way to lower the standard. Sugu said, my requirements are very low. I just need to fully activate the ship's equipment. Meow meow meow, York City was sitting next to her. She kept blinking and couldn't understand at all. Of course, how could she understand the slang of Sugu and Bismarck? In the garrison, only the Prince of Wales, Lexington, Akagia, Bismarck, and Bizai understood this kind of slang. Bismarck said coldly, Admiral, don't even think about it. Military uniform. Pay attention to your image. As he said this, he stretched out his hand to support his forehead. Bismarck reached out towards Sugu and said, Admiral, give me your hand. Sugu stretched out his hand in confusion, but Bismarck immediately grabbed his wrist with both hands. He then turned over his shoulder and threw him onto the thick cotton pad. His movements were not sloppy at all. Finally, he cut his hands behind his back and Bismarck said, it's been so long and I still can't react. What should I do if I go out in the future? I've been teaching you for so long. If you beat me, I will agree to whatever you ask for. Sugu had no idea about winning against Bismarck. He was discouraged. You mean there's nothing to talk about? No need to talk. York City shouted from the side, handsome. As long as Sugu was not satisfied, she would be happy. Sugu was dejected. Okay, let me go. You said, I was wrong, I let you go. Don't tell me. Sugu knew Bismarck's fatal weakness very well. He took a deep breath and shouted, come here, Bismarck murdered his husband. After he shouted, Bismarck immediately let him go. Admiral is just being bored. York City also mocked, rogue professionals. Sugu was not afraid of York City, huh? Big breasts and no brains. York City, she was gearing up, anyway, just use violence. She didn't wait for Sugu to get up, she grabbed Sugu's arm again, and finally sat on Sugu's body. It's hard to do anything outside. After all, it's a concrete floor, and it would be fatal if you bumped into it. Here, with a cotton pad underneath, even an average person won't get hurt. Are you convinced? Let me go if you can. He would never give in. Being pinned down by York City on the cotton pad was the most humiliating thing for Sugu, but he could only glare. Weak chicken. After sneering twice, York City let go of Sugu. Although he knew that Sugu was not that easy to get angry, as long as the bottom line was not involved, it was easy to talk about anything. I don't want to take the hard one, as long as I act coquettishly, anything can be solved easily, and I still feel that I'm almost done. When Sugu stood up again, Bismarck motioned him to look to the side. Admiral, look at the counter over there. Sugu followed Bismarck's line of sight and looked over. There was a black cat curled up in a ball on the wall counter. It was all black except for its face, neck, and paws. It was the black cat Oscar. Bismarck showed a pleased smile. The little house sent it here. Sugu remembered that Xiaozai was originally holding the black cat Oscar and kept talking about his own. Think about it, her favorite person is Sister Meow, and Sister Meow is Bismarck. At the same time, as a little Lolita, she doesn't care so much, no matter if you are a young girl or who you are. Sister Meow took away her Oscar. Little house. Sugu gritted her teeth because she had been busy for a while and got nothing. Well, I can only punish her by sleeping with him at night. Well, otherwise I'd better punish Bismarck at night. Looking back at York City again, the girl also looked back provocatively. Failure doesn't matter, this guy is annoying. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 534. After leaving the training room, he reached out and knocked York City on the head before leaving, and escaped before the girl had time to react. Amid the angry bastard sounds and don't make trouble sighs, York City did not catch up, and Sugu finally felt better. The training room was on the upper floor of the complex. He was about to go downstairs when he saw Kent at the corner between the corridor and the corridor. The girl has long silver hair, wearing a Victorian-style sapphire blue dress with layers of ruffles. That was the first time we met, and we bought clothes in the county where the company is located. Kent looked like a typical bored person waiting for others. He put his hands on the railing of the corridor and looked at the sea in the distance. Then he stood on his tiptoes, then dropped his heels and swung his arms, over and over again. As a heavy cruiser, Kent may not be as powerful as Prince Eugen and Wichita, but it is definitely cute. His weak character is cute, and his always pitiful expression is also very cute. It makes people want to bully him. Probably hearing the footsteps, the girl turned back and opened her lips slightly, showing a smile. "Admiral. Well, why are you here?" Kent pursed his lips again. "I saw Xiaozai holding Oscar, and she gave Oscar to Bismarck." The coffee shop and the training room are on the same floor, so Kent is not surprised to see Xiaozai. Sugu nodded. He had suffered a loss just now and had not received any benefits. He was ridden by York City, which was a great shame and humiliation. Kent tightened his hands on the hem of his skirt, as if to muster up courage. Suk Bader returned to the garrison, and the ferocious tiger also returned. I saw the big tiger early, and I also saw the big tiger waving its paws towards me and screaming wow and wow. It definitely wanted to come back to me, but it was held in the arms of the little loli. I originally wanted to wait a few more days, but I saw Xiaozai holding Oscar and returning it to Bismarck. I saw Bismarck holding Oscar again, caressing him, and scratching his chin. I can't wait anymore. I really want to hold my big tiger. She opened her mouth to speak out, but her courage ran out. She lowered her head again, letting her bangs cover her eyes, and said coquettishly, "Admiral, you promised me before." Suguben was standing opposite Kent. When the girl lowered her head, his eyes suddenly glanced at the girl's chest. Due to his proud figure, Kent's chest clearly showed a slit and a touch of white. He was once innocent and pure. Well, he couldn't be called innocent and pure in the beginning, but he just couldn't adapt to his status as an admiral. "It has been a long time since I became the admiral. I have had many marriage ships, and I have overthrown many, and I have become much more evil." The girl didn't raise her head, and he didn't turn his face away. After looking at her like this for a few seconds, he felt that he was a little evil, and his eyes turned to the distant scenery. "Well," he said, he was attracted unconsciously. "Kent has a weak personality and always needs someone to take good care of him. Now that London has returned to the garrison, London is actually weak, but much better than Kent, and will take more care of Kent. No different than Saratoga, Zhiwehe, or South Dakota. It's rare for a girl to take the initiative to find someone." There was no need to speak at all. He could already guess the reason why he was looking for him. However, for some reason, he wanted to bully the other party, so Sugu pretended to be surprised. "What did I promise you?" For a moment, Kent raised his head and his expression became confused. This is not in line with the plan. Bismarck already won the Oscar, so he should also get the big tiger. She saw Sugu's face, which looked very confused, and she couldn't tell anything was wrong. "I made a good promise before, but I don't remember it." "It's too bad." It was Bumblebee who had already spoken. Kent didn't have the courage. Her voice was weak. "Admiral, it's agreed, it's agreed." Holding back his laughter, Sugu tilted his head. What did you say? Kent put his palms together and spread his hands towards Sugu, making a cute begging gesture. Well, we agreed that when Suk Bader comes back, the Admiral will return the big tiger to me. Sugu pretended to remember. Have you ever said that? Yes, there must be. She was originally a certain distance away from Sugu, but when she heard the denial, she quickly bent forward, reached out to hold Sugu's hand, and then raised her head. Her eyes were filled with tears. Almost giving in, Sugu gritted his teeth and persisted, wondering if he could have a cuter expression. I didn't see the big tiger. Kent sobbed softly. Yes, it is the big tiger that Suk Bader has been holding. That's the orange cat. As he said this, Sugu thought of that ferocious tiger that looked like an oversized orange cat. It was so chubby that the word ferocious couldn't be used. It was so cute. Having been pushed over the head by Suk Bader, and pushed over by fantasy, Xiaozai finally gave it a try. Just looking at it, it feels like being hit with a straight punch, full of blood. K.O. Kent didn't know Sugu's psychological activities, so she rarely showed her stubbornness. It's just a ferocious tiger. Even if the tiger is healed, it is not ferocious at all, nor big at all. He was speechless. Seeing Sugu acting naughty, Kent tightened his grip on Sugu's wrist and squatted on the ground, as if he was acting naughty, and said, "Anyway, if the Admiral doesn't agree, I won't leave, my big tiger, wow." Sugu turned around and started, "But Suk Bader has just returned to the garrison, so we have to take away her big tiger. It's too much. Since it's your big tiger, if you want it, go and get it yourself. The equipment is carried on the ship and no one can steal it. Small pets still don't matter. If it were Saratoga, they would take it away without any reason." Kent's words would make him weak even if he was attacked by the little girl. She bit her lip. "No, I want you to give it back to me, Admiral." In a way, the Kent needs more care than the destroyer. When the other party was away and encountered a bad boss, another ship girl would be able to at least leave quietly without directly punching him, but she would not dare to do anything. Like Xiaozai, little Loli, I used to travel alone without any problems. After all, she is a ship girl. If she really treats a little Lolita as a little Lolita, everyone will suffer a big loss. They just love to play, not that they don't understand anything. However, seeing Kent's tears falling, Sugu couldn't bear the tears anymore. He could only nod. "Okay, okay." Kent wiped away tears. "I knew the Admiral was the best and would definitely give me the big tiger." She burst into tears and continued with a smile, "They all said that if I beg you, you will definitely ask someone to wear a maid outfit, otherwise wearing a bunny girl outfit. She likes to make pranks on people. They also said that the Admiral is a cunning person and a dirty person. People like to peek at people's breasts. They insist on watching me unbutton their chests, saying that it can increase the success rate. I thought it was stretched open." Immersed in the excitement, Kent talked a lot. Finally, he put his hands on his chest and smiled like an angel. "Anyway, I know that the Admiral is the best. When the weather is hot, he will give Kent a fan and will deliberately tell Leipzig to put the fruit. If I give it to Kent, I will treat him to milk and papaya milk, and I won't laugh at Kent's weak armor. Kent knows that he is weak, but I have an Admiral, and it would be the best if I can become the Admiral's ship's wife." Sugu looked at Kent's trusting expression and said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The weather was still a bit cold at noon, but the sun came out in the afternoon. Sugu took Kent to find Suk Bader. He saw no one in the room of the small house, only a bunch of toys and big dolls scattered around. "I met many people along the way, like Prince Eugen, like Ruhi, like York. The Admiral is actually with Kent. Is the Admiral finally going to take action against Kent? Kent, bring glory to the Royal Navy, come on." Kent couldn't stand the teasing, so she lowered her head and held Sugu's sleeve all the way. Finally, I met Leipzig, who was willing to come out of the warehouse in the corridor. Ask Suchbader. A group of them ran to the warehouse and asked me for fishing gear, saying that you would give it to Suchbader, and then ran away with the fishing gear. Probably at the pier, maybe on the beach. There is a pile of rocks beyond the beach, it is possible there. A small mat was placed by the pier, and Suchbader sat on it. She got a complete set of fishing gear and couldn't wait. There is a fishing rod in front of him, and the fishing rod is properly placed on the pole holder. She squinted her eyes and looked attentively. She was not as present as before, making it difficult to tell whether she was fishing or sleeping. Xiaozai, Fantasy, Thatcher, Amethyst Quartz, and others were squatting next to them. They were invited to see Mr. Suchbader's world-leading fishing skills. However, even fishing master Suchbader takes a long time to catch one. A group of little Lolita waited impatiently, and they frequently picked up the only grouper in the small bucket. Suchbader didn't care, she just enjoyed the process of fishing. Odin was next to him and the boss was unhappy. Don't take the fish out of the water. What if it dies? Xiaozai was very down to earth. I'll eat it if it dies, just like the rabbits and dogs in the past. It's a pity that the hamster was buried. Kong Xiang nodded. The smell of dog meat makes Buddha jump over the wall. As a young supply ship, Odin was no match for him and no one could stop him. Xiaozai successfully picked up the grouper. It's different from what the admiral caught before. The admiral only knows how to pick up shells. I imagined that someone was talking arrogantly and went fishing with fishing gear. We sat together in boredom for a long time without catching a single fish. Finally, we all sat on the rocks by the sea blowing the sea breeze. Although it felt great, walking barefoot on the rocks, and finally slept on the lap pillow, listening to the story of Thulhu. The waves hit the rocks, and the sea water splashed on my feet. Chirping, Xiaozai squatted on the ground again, holding his face in his hands. It's been a long time, but no fish has taken the bait. Suchbader tightened his grip on the fishing rod. It's not that fast. Will you catch Magi carp? The Jojo fish is better and will evolve into Minas. Purple Quartz was dissatisfied. You should catch many dragons, fast dragons are the most powerful. It's obviously called hypertrophy. The admiral said the hippo's tail is delicious. Xiaozai followed Sugu to many zoos and listened to many explanations. She protested, hippos only exist in Africa. There were a lot of discussions, but Suchbader couldn't get in a word. She thought to herself, inexplicably, there is no such thing in the sea. Also, what does the freezing ray mean? Destruction death ray sounds more powerful. Is it an agate jellyfish or a toilet jellyfish? One person calls it the same name, but it seems to be the same thing. What does it mean to get the green caterpillar death rattle with 1 mana, 1 health, and 1 attack, and the Rayquaza with 10 mana, 12 health, and 12 attacks? Why can't I understand anything? It's better to wait until I catch a big fish and let you see how powerful I am. While thinking in his mind, Suchbader laughed and fell into delusion. A few people were chatting happily, and Xiaozai stood up. Let's go, I suddenly want to play Pocket Legend. Odin, do you want to play with me? Odin nodded, then shook his head, but I don't know how. Utopia pressed on Odin's shoulder. We will teach you the game recently invented by the admiral, but it is too troublesome to play and you have to make cards. What about Suchbader? Ignore her, she still wants to fish. After a long time, Suchbader woke up from her delusion, and she suddenly found that there was no one around her. Looking back, she saw that everyone had already run up the high steps of the governor's mansion, and she felt aggrieved for a moment. Sugu found Suchbader. The young girl was sniffing and there were a lot of fish in the small bucket next to her. You weren't with Xiaozai at first, why are you here alone now? They left. It would be best if no one was around. Sugu turned back to Kent, stretched out a finger and shook it to his lips, signaling the girl not to speak. While he reached out and lifted up the big tiger sleeping next to Sukbader, he said, Sukbader is very powerful. He lost a lot of fish. The big tiger woke up and found that it was Sugu. As a super-standard being, he knew very well that this was his master's master and did not yell at Sugu. Kent was discovered again, and his limbs had begun to dance. After Kent hissed slightly, there was immediately no movement or sound. At the same time, Sukbader was praised, and her voice was full of pride. Of course I am great, how could I lose? I am the best in the world. I can catch any fish. Admiral, what kind of fish do you like? Sugu handed the big tiger to Kent, signaled the girl to leave quickly, and then said, Is the whale okay? It's not good. Where's the great white shark? No. Or U-156? No. U-96? No. Sugu laughed, You can't catch anything. I asked about the fish, they are submarines. Frying fish, fishing for fish, netting every household, submarines are just fish. Sukbader thought of Lingbo and how many people were sitting outside the canal chamber. She took a deep breath. Okay, even if it is a submarine, the most powerful Lord Sukbader will have to fish them out. Hey, the net is closed, don't even think about leaving. Snap. The sound of falling was heard, and Sugu and Sukbader both turned around and saw Kent falling to the ground. Admiral, I'm very careful, well, don't look at me. The big tiger was given to me by the Admiral. Sukbader looked at Kent and then at Sugu, his expression became even more aggrieved. Bad Admiral, bullying children. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 535. The weather has suddenly become cold these days, and everyone in the town hall has put on an extra piece of clothing. It's a pity that the long legs in black stockings and long white stockings are gradually disappearing, and you can only appreciate them a little at night. The sea breeze was howling, and a charcoal fire was also lit in the cafe. Many people sat around the brazier and put iron racks on top of the brazier, warming themselves over the fire and roasting meat at the same time. Of course, potatoes, taro, and sweet potatoes are also essential. What's more, they put the table directly on top of the brazier and started playing mahjong. In a beautifully decorated coffee shop, lighting up a charcoal fire already feels a little out of place. Playing mahjong again, watching four people playing mahjong skillfully, reminds me of the movie Tangbo Who Spots Autumn Fragrance. The beautiful and graceful ship girl is like an elf, as well as the favorite mahjong of the 7 ants and 8 ants. The place is still in the coffee shop, and the atmosphere feels completely different. Fortunately, it is only a small group of people. At this time, at the bar of the cafe, Santiago, a light cruiser with thick green curly hair, was humming softly. She was still holding the bread in her hand, but she accidentally stumbled and the bread fell to the ground. She quickly bent down to pick up the bread, then looked up and looked around, saying to herself, if something falls to the ground, you can still eat it if you pick it up within 5 seconds. As a ship girl, there is actually no need to worry about germs, but after living for a long time, many habits are no different from ordinary people. Standing nearby, Kent saw the scene and hugged the big tiger tightly with both hands. Santiago, you are really careless. Biting the bread, Santiago looked at Kent in surprise. It was not that she had any grudge against Kent, but she was just confused that the usually weak Kent was acting strangely. In the past, when two people accidentally bumped into each other, even if it was their own fault, the other party would already apologize and shed tears before he said sorry, but now he would actually scold the other person. Sugu leaned on the booth sofa, and Saratoga leaned on him. Spring sleepiness, summer fatigue, autumn nap, hibernation, these cold days don't want to work at all. As long as there is warmth, even if you can only sit bored and pass the time with delusions, it is better than working. Many people saw what happened between Santiago and Kent. Saratoga spoke with a clear voice, "Brother-in-law, what do you think happened to Kent?" Recalling what happened in the past few days, Sugu chuckled, "Gia, let me tell you, I made a big discovery." As he spoke, he stood up from the sofa until he walked to Kent, reached out and patted the girl on the shoulder. White Elephant Kent. Turning back suddenly, his long silver hair was beating, and Kent's face was full of dissatisfaction. "Admiral, ridiculing people is a very vulgar behavior, and it is hateful." Not angry, nor ashamed, or repentant, Sugu reached out his hand again and snatched the big tiger away from Kent's arms. Seeing that the big tiger was gone, Kent's eyes quickly filled with mist. He grabbed Sugu's arm and shook it. "Admiral, give me back the big tiger, please." Sugu whispered, "White Elephant Kent. My armor is weak, I'm so sorry." Sugu put the big tiger on Kent's head again, saw Kent taking the big tiger off his head and holding it in his arms, and finally heard Kent's complaint, "Evil-minded Admiral." He returned to the sofa and sat down again. Because of his departure, Saratoga hugged a big pillow. The girl's face was filled with curiosity. Is the big tiger the courage of Kent? Probably. If you want to bully her anyway, just take away her big tiger. Sugu also found it magical that such a situation would happen, but it happened. Saratoga smiled slightly, but Atlanta, who had been walking around, was particularly interested when he saw this scene. She showed her little tiger teeth and reached out to snatch Kent's big tiger away. Say a word and return the big tiger to Kent. Say another word and snatch away the big tiger again. After repeating this several times, she showed a surprised expression. You. Even though she got the big tiger, Kent didn't become more courageous, but the effect was better. She sniffed and sniffed, obviously sobbing. Saratoga hugged the pillow and slept on Sugu's lap pillow. He raised his hands and looked at his 10 fingers. "Brother-in-law, can you paint my nail polish for me?" "Good. What color do you prefer?" "I don't like nail polish on my nails. I don't think they look good." "Then don't apply it." Saratoga twisted her body, changed her sleeping position, and suddenly said, "Brother-in-law, I heard that you snatched Suk Bader's big tiger that day and made people cry." Touching his nose, Sugu explained, "I'm not crying, I just made a deal with Suk Bader. She gave me the big tiger, and I promised to move the big container to the townhouse and make her a secret base. You see, she is not here today, and neither is a group of destroyers. Instead of staying in their nice rooms, a group of people hid in a secret base, and filled it with snacks, making it difficult to deal with. As long as I don't get stuck around you." Saratoga smiled sweetly, thinking of someone's heroic words again. "Brother-in-law, you originally said you would have a New Year's Day party, but now no one is rehearsing." Speaking of this matter, Sugu sighed, "It's been so cold these past 2 days, no one is too lazy to move. Forget it, it's a party. Wouldn't it be better if everyone went outside to play?" Squeak. Suddenly there was a sound of pushing the door open, and cold air rushed into the room in an instant. York City, wearing a scarf, walked into the coffee shop with a bag of things, then walked to Sugu and put it down. She sat next to her, stretched out her hands to rub them together, and breathed a sigh of relief. "It's so cold. We are fighting outside. You guys are enjoying it so much. You're going by yourself. Well, why are you just coming back now?" York City complained, "First encountered a deep-sea battleship, and then a deep-sea heavy cruiser. Even if the deep-sea flagship is suppressed, it's not that there are no deep-sea ship girls appearing, it's just that they don't appear so frequently. Likewise, as long as an enemy appears, no matter day or night, cold weather or hot weather, the garrison must attack. This is an agreement between the Kanyang headquarters and the government, and it is also the responsibility of the tutelage. After all, while enjoying rights, one must also fulfill obligations. Sugu picked up the bag in front of him but hadn't opened it yet. Even so, if you set out early in the morning, you should be back long ago. The fleet's escort was badly damaged, and we helped escort the fleet all the way to Chuangziu. Then we had a big meal at Chuangziu, and we bought a lot of magazines and newspapers back from Wichita. Well, that's all. Not every time an enemy appears, only one or two people need to attack. If there is danger, multiple people need to attack together. Sugu looked around. Where is Wichita? She suffered a little scratch and fell into a canal. She asked me to call you over and bathe with her. She said that this would definitely help her recover faster. Wichita has a bold and upright personality, and Sugu likes her very much. However, looking at Saratoga, who was pouting, he opened the bag and took out the newspaper. Let's forget it. Anyway, I brought you a message. I won't talk to you anymore. I'm going to warm myself by the fire. York City left, and Sugu opened the newspaper and prepared to read. Saratoga glanced at the dense small print on the newspaper and suddenly lost interest in the newspaper. Brother-in-law, is there any news? After taking a look at the title, Sugu said, there is a war in the Middle East again. It seems to be for religion, and warships are bombarding each other. Even with the deep-sea ship girls as foreign enemies, humans themselves are still fighting fiercely. Fortunately, the admiral said he was a soldier, but he was actually a special soldier. He did not belong to any country and was absolutely not allowed to participate in such things. Saratoga had no interest in the war, and she asked, is there any more? It seems like there's nothing important. Well, a certain prince has been the crown prince for 60 years and finally saw a glimmer of hope for ascending to the throne. Is this considered news? How can the world have the right to be a prince for 60 years? Well, what else is there? Sugu turned over the newspaper and was immediately attracted. Sichuangzhou Customs seized a large amount of contraband. What contraband? Guns and ammunition. Having also lived in Sichuangzhou for a period of time, Saratoga knew very well that Sichuangzhou banned guns, cannons, and even controlled knives. It was also an absolutely neutral city. She was surprised. That's incredible. Sugu also nodded. It's incredible. Guns and explosives are indeed powerful. In fact, a martial law was going on at Chuangzhou Wharf, which was far away from the garrison, which caused panic for a while. Ship girls are not afraid of guns, but Chuangzhou has countless ordinary people, and now that New Year's Day is approaching, it will be difficult to handle such a thing. It's just that martial law has caused inconvenience to many people, and they will not consider the city's good intentions. After all, the head determines the butt, and then the butt determines the head. In short, interests determine the position. At the dockside of Chuangzhou, many people affected by martial law were complaining. At this time, there were two people sitting in a restaurant by the pier. They were eating hot pot and laughing at the same time. It's called martial law, but it's not just for the purpose of fighting for power and demonstrating the absolute authority of the ship girl in Sichuan. In the past few days, only one case has been found, and it has to be carried out every day. The ship girl awakens from the history and memory of the battleship, but many battleships have a disgraceful history and participated in the massacre of civilians. After participating in the massacre, how good is the history of the battleship itself? The sailors who participated in the massacre, how beautiful are memories. Many warships also betrayed their comrades, falsely reported military exploits, and went on strike. Are ship girls born from such history and memories really as good as the propaganda? The top manager of Sichuangzhou is the ship girl, who is the incarnation of beauty. Look at Sichuangzhou, all kinds of taxes are no less than other cities. You said they are really good people, why do they collect money? Everyone has worked hard to open a store and made a lot of money, but a lot of it has to be taken away. If you evade a little tax and are found out, you will be heavily fined immediately. Ha ha ha, how good it is to say it, but everyone is getting into the money. Another person said, the ship girl should be restrained by the admiral. You said admiral, and I laughed. Men become bad when they are rich, and women become rich when they become bad. Admirals are human beings. As an admiral, you may have high ambitions at the beginning. After being an admiral for a few years, you will become rich. Don't be serious. They are expected to guard the human territory wholeheartedly, and admirals are just a job. They are surrounded by ship girls, all of them are beautiful women, and the heroes of Weenwen Township. Haha, how powerful it is to say that as soon as the deep sea flagship comes, every admiral will immediately they have become a coward and don't care if the city is attacked. I just said it here, they get so much money as admirals and are reluctant to sacrifice even a little bit, tisk tisk. By the way, do you know? I heard that every admiral has many wedding ships, and they have sex every night. Some admirals even marry destroyers, and they can even attack little girls. And about female admirals, they have a lot of love with ship girls. Haha, Lily, emojing, anyway, I only know that even though she is a beautiful ship girl, she has also done a lot of dirty things. As the two people were talking, a bowl of wine was suddenly thrown in their faces, and sneers broke out. It's really hard to take care of me when I'm under martial law and scold me, but when I don't discipline my horse, I have to scold him again when something goes wrong. I don't enforce martial law, but I don't want anything to happen. I want the horse to run, but I also want the horse to stop eating grass. It's great. The warship is not a battleship, nor is it the sailors or commanders on the battleship. The warship is only born from the history and memory of the warship. If the parents have committed a crime, the children must be guilty. Must future generations be nailed to the pillar of shame of history? There is a dark history and memory. Please, those are deep-sea ship girls. Even if the warship is full of sin, it may not have its shining points. Ship girls were born in such a beautiful history and memory, and they are helping you deal with the enemy. Jian Niang, as a manager, manages a city. How much does it cost to manage such a big city? Where does the money come from for all kinds of infrastructure? Every civil servant has to be paid. Is it a waste to let people do things for you? Mom is a good person, not a fool. Again, you were forced to come here, forced to come? Originally, this was just a desolate island with almost no indigenous people. I don't know whether you are tourists or citizens, but in short, you have enjoyed the city. Of course you have to pay taxes for shelter and convenience. You can't pick up the bowl to eat and put the bowl down to scold your mother. Of course an admiral is a job. You have to eat a bowl of rice and do a job. Who is not the same? Besides, the deep-sea flagship is coming. Isn't it interesting to hit the stone with an egg? Over the years, it's not that no ships have sunk, and it's not that no admirals have sacrificed their lives. Let's talk about one more thing. The admirals have many weddings, and the parties involved did not say anything or force them. You have so many things to do. Some countries are monogamous, and some are polygamous. It just so happens that there is no such thing as monogamy in the admiral circle. Everyone is teasing and joking about getting married to a destroyer. Do you really believe it? Even if you are married, no admiral will touch the destroyer. The admiral and the ship's wife are having sex every night. Is it bothering you? The love between husband and wife is between man and woman. Is this another dirty thing? Don't you have parents? Ha ha, ha ha. I only know two grown men who like to gossip the most. It's so interesting and disgusting. The two people were stunned for a moment. They were so stunned that they couldn't say a word as they watched the tall and slender chic woman in front of them walk away. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai Rong Yan. Chapter 536. Looking up at the dense canopy of the camphor tree swaying in the sea breeze, a gray-haired woman named Kaga walked on the street, stepping on the diamond-shaped floor tiles. Due to her exquisite appearance and tall and slender figure, she always attracts a lot of attention on the road, and she is used to it. She gently kicked the pebbles on the road and watched them roll down through the gaps in the railing onto the beach. Walking slowly with my hands behind my back, I thought about what I had just done and thought, I was not just wasting a bowl of wine, I was really excited. Even though it makes people uncomfortable when they meet someone who talks nonsense, in fact, they should not be so excited and should not speak at length. After all, the forest is big, there are all kinds of birds, and there are too many different kinds of people in this world. In the past, when faced with this kind of thing, taking a sip of wine and snorting would be enough. However, apart from Akage, I traveled abroad and learned a lot about the history of the old world. At the beginning, I was a little sensitive when I heard the other party slandering the ship girl. It's true that he didn't do anything bad, he just remembered what the Kaga did in the old world. It makes people feel guilty to wake up from such history and memories and inherit such power. Although the person I am today as a ship girl does not represent the past. A ship girl is a ship girl, and a battleship is a battleship. I can only say that I have inherited the power, or at most I can say that I am the child of a battleship. Sometimes I suddenly think about it, maybe there is this reason why I am not liked by the admiral compared to Akage. What it did as a battleship was terrible. Maybe not, after all, he had participated in the exercise, so he was taken seriously. Anyway, the admiral left, and there was no way to ask any more questions after all. There were shouts and shouts coming from the road, and a person was pinned to the ground. He seemed to be a thief. I've seen him before. I originally wanted to take action, but someone took action first. It's a pity. Gia he listened, and she laughed a little, laughing at the passers-by's hindsight and laughing at the thief for actually daring to take action during the martial law period, showing off his head. She looked around, slightly confused. There is actually a hot pot restaurant opened here. I don't remember that there was one before, I think there was one, but I can't remember. Buffet? It looks quite high-end. If you have a chance, come with Akage. There are also grocery stores and fruit shops. It's not good to go back empty-handed. Should I bring some apples or oranges? Tobacco, and alcohol. Akage doesn't smoke, so there's no use buying it back. As for wine, Akage can drink some, but he doesn't like it. I guess I finished the drink in the end and I finished it. Haha, I always used to call myself this way in the garrison. I also like to say, it is a great pleasure to defeat enemy chiefs on the battlefield. Akage, Yu's best friend. We went to the battlefield hand in hand with him, there are few enemies among the enemy. After traveling for so long and being looked at as a fool many times, my habit of speaking has changed. Speaking of which, in what month did I leave, and how long have I been gone? She whispered to herself, thinking that after leaving the city called Chuangziu, she did not come back for the first New Year. No letter has been sent back, and there is no greeting card. There has been no news for such a long time, as if he has disappeared. It was just a little different from when the admiral left. The admiral left without saying a word, but he said something at least. However, now after so long, it is finally coming back in the second New Year. Speaking of which, before he left, Akage became an instructor at the academy. She is so powerful and smart, but she is often unwilling to do it and has no pursuit. Now, he might still be an ordinary instructor, or he might have a very high position. In that case, she will need to take care of her in the future. I have been taking care of her for too long. While walking and thinking, Kagami saw that it was still early and she didn't take a train or a taxi. In fact, it was not only a matter of time, but also a matter of excitement and confusion in my heart. She reached out and opened the bag where she bought fruits and wine, took out a bottle of wine, and drank it mouth to mouth. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught sight of the people on the street looking at him in surprise, and thought to himself, "What are you looking at, what is all the fuss about?" Her movements were still bold or free and easy, and she didn't care at all that a woman should be elegant. Going to the deepest part of the city, the college is located in the center of the entire city and also occupies the largest area. As I walked, I put the empty wine bottle into the trash can on the roadside, and suddenly thought about rummaging through my pockets. I lost my dormitory key once in the future, but I still found it. Even though it was well protected, it accidentally got bent, and in the end I just stretched out my hand to straighten it. That's important stuff, not just to open the door. On the road, many times I sit alone. Drink a bowl of wine, rub the keys in your hand, then slowly look at the moon, and think about some of the past things. The key has always been a source of sustenance. After spending a lot of time walking to the street outside the college, Kagami saw that the hot pot restaurant was full of people. All of them were wearing white admiral uniforms, and there was a little girl sitting next to them. She must be the new admiral. However, he couldn't recognize the other party, and the other party couldn't recognize him. The new batch of people he saw at the beginning must have become their own admirals now. When I walked to the college, it happened to be the weekend and I encountered no obstruction. I saw many people in the college, and I remembered that I had heard people complain before that the college had turned into a park many tourists who come to Sichuangzhou will definitely come to visit. The magnolia tree is still the same, the sycamore tree is the same, but the trash can has been replaced with a new one. After being away for a long time, Kaga is still not unfamiliar with the academy. I walked all the way to the dormitory building in my memory, went up the stairs, stood in front of the door and took a deep breath. While taking out the key and inserting it into the keyhole, I was thinking about how to say hello. Should I say Akage, I'm back, or I'm sorry, I'm only back now? Kagami thought a lot, but something unexpected happened. The key seemed to be unable to open the door. She twisted the key many times, but the keyhole remained unmoved, and finally gave up. Putting the keys away, she raised her hand and knocked on the door. She knocked many times, but there was no response. Probably going out for the weekend, thinking like this, she left. After walking around in Chuangziu, I came back again in the evening. Standing downstairs, I saw that the windows upstairs were dark. Have you not come back yet? Anyway, try the key again, or ask your neighbors where Akage went. She came to the door again, took out the key, twisted it, and knocked on the door again. Someone came downstairs and saw her knocking on the door. Are you looking for Akage? Kagami turned around and showed a smile. Yes, I am looking for Akage. I am her good friend and sister. As I was talking, I was thinking that the Akage type and the Kage type are not actually sisters. However, we have a deep relationship, and we are not just sisters, but also sisters. The woman who came down from upstairs thought for a while and said, Akage, it's the instructor, I guess. I heard about it. She is no longer in the academy. She left, followed others, joined the garrison, and seemed to have become a wedding ship. Jia, he was stunned. Who are you following? I'm not sure. I'm just an ordinary employee. Otherwise, you can ask others. It's better to ask students. They should all know. Thanks. Bending down and bowing, Kagami had a lot of thoughts in his mind. Wait until people leave. She stood outside the door, then raised her hand and punched the lock directly. The action was rough, but effective, and the door opened immediately. She walked into the room and found that the layout of the room was still the same, and something was wrong. The carp streamer hanging on the wall was missing. A potted plant on the counter has completely withered, and it was obviously very bright before. In addition, the large potted plant placed in the corner is no longer visible. I don't know where it went. With some purpose in mind, he glanced around the living room and suddenly found a pair of men's slippers on the shoe rack. Feeling a little uneasy, she walked into the bedroom and took a look. The quilt was neatly folded, and a piece of men's clothing was thrown casually on the bed. Opening the closet, there are my own clothes, blue and purple kimonos and yukata. Then Akaga's clothes were also there, but there were only one or two pieces. Frowning, she noticed that there were men's clothes and even underwear. For a moment, he thought of a situation. Akage followed the people away, and then they came back to stay once or twice, and of course they rested together on the bed. A little angry, but more confused and trusting, Kagami returned to the living room. I didn't pay attention at first, but then I saw a water glass on the table with a letter pressed on it. She picked up the letter, opened it, and took out a thick stack of letter signing paper. The small characters on the paper were slender and graceful, and it was Akage's handwriting. Dear Kaga. Purely because of the format, I'm just going to call you Bastard Kaga right now. Kaga, this is the 5th letter I have written to you. As I was writing this, I was already very angry. You've been away for so long and you haven't come back until now. By the way, when you read this letter, you probably won't be able to find me in the room. You certainly don't know where I have gone, but I hope you wish me well. Why do I need you to bless me? Got a hero machine? Suppress the deep sea flagship? Have you become a high official? I'm telling you, it's neither. The past is past, we have to look to the future. I found a person to be an admiral. He is my student. His initial ship is York City. He is a very cute ship girl. He was funny and cute, and I joined him in the garrison. When you come back, I must introduce him to you. By the way, I forgot to tell you about me. He gave me a very beautiful ring and I have become his wedding ship. Let me tell you another secret. When a woman is nourished by a man, she will become beautiful. I am younger now. My life now is very happy, with only one bad thing. There is no way, my admiral, he has too many wedding ships. I kept being called mistress and vixen again, which was very unpleasant. Snickering, actually being called a vixen is quite funny. I like to watch the struggle of the defeated dog the most. After all, being called a vixen shows that I am very attractive. It is difficult to be treated as a sister, which shows that there is no competitiveness at all. There are weak chickens and there are big enemies. My biggest opponent is so powerful that I have never been able to defeat her. You are back. I really hope you will join our garrison. You will agree, you will definitely become my powerful helper when the time comes. Together as sisters, no one should be able to stop our charm. Speaking of which, my admiral came back with a set of custom-made clothes for Akage Fukami, and Kage Fukami's clothes were also custom-made. I'm a little worse on my own, but you're back just in time. Together, the two ships are invincible. I feel that we are not as charming as Deep Sea Akage Kaga. I have been writing about the admiral, but if I don't write about the admiral, I don't know what to write about better. There is no other way, my whole body and heart have been taken away by him. He is all in my mind, and there is no way to forget it no matter what. For this reason, I am writing to you and leaving a message. I don't even know what to say. Please forgive me, you are no longer the #1 priority in Akage's heart. Forgive me, Akage has no way to look back. After reading a piece of paper, Kagami pursed his lips and put the piece of paper at the end. The second piece of paper that appeared inside had each line written on it, Kaga, you are so annoying, so you will not come back. The handwriting looks serious and not at all perfunctory. Another paper, and every line on this paper also says, Kaga, you are such a bastard. As I read along, I found something unexpectedly different in the last line. I saw on that line, it said, Kaga, I miss you. There was only one piece left at the end, and this piece of paper was all blank. Just as Kagami was a little confused, a voice appeared. "Who are you? Why are you in Akagi's room?" He opened the door directly with his fist, and the noise was naturally loud, so he didn't think about so many things at the time. At this time, he thought of causing trouble, but Kaga was in no mood to pay attention to these people. She glanced at the girl with short blonde hair who walked in the door and said, "I am Akagi's friend and sister." I never knew Akagi had sisters. Without paying too much attention to the visitor, he had already noticed that there was writing on the back of the blank page. She waved her hand. "Okay, don't bother me now. I'll explain it to you later. Speak clearly first." Boom. Kagami continued to read the last page. There were not many words on it. "You must be very angry when you see the front. I'm so embarrassed. I didn't want to tell you at first, just to make you anxious and angry. Punish someone who said he would only leave for a while but left for a long time. In the end, he thought about it and let it go. Now, I am indeed not lying, I joined the garrison. The admiral was also my student, and I became his wedding partner, and very interesting things happened together. I can't tell you what they were. There is also my constant opponent in the garrison. My big opponent is called Lexington. Then, the highlight, my admiral, his name is Sugu." There was an address at the bottom. Kagami finally read all the letters, and a smile appeared on her lips. "Now, you've finished reading, can you let me go? I told you, I am friend Akagi, I am Kaga." Being pinned down on a short table, with her face pressed against the table, the girl said in a strange voice, "Yeah, I understand, I am the Colossus. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 537. The noisy sounds continued, and Sugu sat on the bedside feeling distressed. He sighed, thinking that the great enjoyment was gone. He should have slept in the kotetsu by himself and enjoyed Lexington's gentle service. Look at the delicate hands peeling off the orange peel, tearing off a little bit of the orange veins, and then putting the sweet orange segments into your mouth. After all, as a perfect wife who can do all decathlons, she may have many small thoughts, but she has few rivals in terms of tenderness and thoughtfulness. So far, I only found Xianghe who can sit down and talk. However, compared to Lexington, Xianghe is not a wedding ship, and he cannot do many thoughtful tricks. In the end, he is just one move behind. Everything was planned and the kotetsu was moved from the warehouse into the room. Drinks, fruits, desserts, dried fruits, biscuits, and a lot of snacks are all ready, and novels and comics are also all in place. However, with a sound of wow, a little pink head emerged from the door. Xiaozai ran into the room and kept saying, "Admiral, can I sleep here? It seems so comfortable." Sugu had no way to refuse Xiaozai, no way at all. Immediately afterwards, Fan Huan came in from the door again. Xiaozai agreed, so naturally the little princess Fan Huan could not refuse. That's it, Rafi came again, Suk Bader came again, and more people came. There were so many little Lolita crammed into a big kotetsu, and there was no spare space at all. Even the snacks were all taken away by the little Loli and she could only sit by the bed. In fact, it doesn't matter. Sugu has adapted. His room is not his own room. It can be called the little Loli's activity room. Anyway, as long as Lexington is by your side, anywhere is a paradise of happiness. But then he said, "Sister Lexington, can you help us peel the apples?" A group of little Lolita snatched Lexington away, crying without tears. Another voice followed, "Admiral, tell us a story. Don't you have comics to read?" "But I want to hear your story, Admiral." The story told by Admiral is the best. With the hopeful eyes, you can choose to turn your head, but like a needle on your back, you still can't refuse. It is said that if a person is infected with Toxoplasma gondii, he will become a cat slave for life. Cats use Toxoplasma gondii to control humans, lower their IQ, and make humans willing to become shit scavengers. Especially as a cat lover who has not yet realized it, I think cats are just too cute, clean, lazy, and elegant, and there is nothing you can do about it. Sugu felt that he had also been poisoned by the little Lolita. Otherwise, why would he have been unable to help but agree and become a shameful Lolita control? Okay, let me tell you a story. To tell a good story that we haven't heard before. Okay. Theosophists once speculated that there is a magnificent cyclical process in the universe. They also gave us a chilling hint of unflappable optimism. I myself know something about this kind of thing, and whenever I think of her, I tremble all over, and whenever I dream about her, I feel like I'm going crazy, but my knowledge of her does not come from speculations of theosophists. Where should I start talking about this matter? I met Prince Eugen in the garrison. I said to her, Eugen, our idol, is the best in the world. I only saw her face turned pale. Shake his head and say, it's not me, I don't have it. I had a dream during my nap that day. A cow was grazing. When I woke up, I couldn't remember anything. I saw a blue boat-shaped hat on the bedside table. I picked up the boat-shaped hat. There is an indescribable voice that comes to mind in my mind, King Yizayasan, King Yizayasan. I walked out of the room and saw the counterattack. I wanted to talk to her, but I couldn't speak. There was a gaze staring at me. She's coming, she's coming. 0v, Ovo. Before Sugu finished speaking, Xiaozai looked bored. She sighed like a little adult, I know who it is. Admiral, you said it, and you are scaring Sister Quincy again. You can listen at ease. Waving his hand, Sugu's voice became hoarse, I saw Quincy that day. Quincy was very cute. She hid around the corner and carefully peeked at me. I suddenly realized that Prince Eugen said she was not an idol. Mainly because Quincy is back. She is vulnerable in front of the lovely Quincy. I dreamed about the cow, and it was also Quincy who came back, and the boat hat is also Quincy's masterpiece. It turned out to be just Quincy. I breathed a sigh of relief. Quincy told me, Admiral, I came back with my sister. I said, I know, New Orleans, bring her to see me. I saw Quincy. She pulled someone over from the corner, and she saw that person, New Orleans, and she had no head. Sugu's voice was hoarse, especially when he turned on the light when he started speaking. The room became brighter and everyone adapted. At the last sentence, he turned off the light again. As soon as the light in the room, which always had its curtains drawn, went dark, a group of little Lolitas screamed. How about it? I didn't expect it. While talking, Sugu was very proud. Too horrible. Admiral, I'm going to beat you. There was a lot of noise, but luckily everyone hid in the kotetsu, and the kotetsu was warm. After being startled, they recovered quickly. Xiaozai asked cautiously, why doesn't Sister New Orleans have a head? Sugu smiled, of course the New Orleans is headless, senior sister. Otherwise, why don't you ask your sister Lexington, what do you think she said? Seeing everyone looking at her, Lexington showed a helpless expression. She turned to Sugu and said, you arranged Quincy and New Orleans like this. I must tell them when they come back. You're just making up stories, why do you care so much? Sugu said, smiling, by the way, where are they in Quincy and New Orleans? I miss them. Have no idea. Little Loli also reacted now, wishing she had eaten a persimmon. The Admiral is telling a story about the future. It is clear that Sister Quincy and Sister New Orleans have not come back. Sugu circled around the kotetsu, trying to squeeze in, but felt that the influence was not good and that it was too perverted. Love is allowed, but obscenity is absolutely not allowed. When he heard Kong Xiang's words, he squatted on the ground and stretched out his hand to rub Kong Xiang's head. It's just a story, but maybe, when they come back, this scene might happen. Suk Bader was a little scared. Admiral, stop talking and change the story. What do you want to hear? The story of the great hero Suk Bader. The little girl was so cute, but Sugu still refused. Without this kind of story, Suk Bader would never be a hero. I am a hero now. Xiao Zai ate the wafers like a hamster, and blew away the remains of the food in one breath. You can say whatever you want, no more ghost stories, otherwise we will knock on your door every night. A group of little Lolita have always been lawless, and this threat is terrible. Sugu must admit defeat. He thought for a while and said, the girl with white hair and red eyes sat in front of the mirror. She said, magic mirror, who is this world, above? Poisoned by the little Lolita, Sugu told the story over and over again, telling many stories in a row. After the little Lolita finally had enough to eat and drink, and listened to enough stories, they staggered out of the room one by one. They all left, and this time it was Sugu's turn to sleep in the kotetsu. He quickly patted his side. Lexington, my dear wife, come in quickly. Lexington looked eager to try, but she was a little embarrassed. I'll go to the warehouse to get some fruits and snacks. Sugu nodded. Go quickly, get more. Well, it's so comfortable. If you go out, close the door. Lexington left, and Sugu lay comfortably in the kotetsu. I almost wanted to sleep, but I squinted my eyes and thought, when Lexington comes back, I must let her sleep in together. Unfortunately, I forgot to tell her to call her Saratoga. Sisters are indispensable. Sugu was drowsily asleep when he heard sounds around him, some familiar and some unfamiliar. Lexington, don't go to such trouble. It's very polite of you to bring so many things. It's not okay if you don't provide good hospitality. Lexington, Iki Hangzan Kaga-senpai is not a guest. Ruhi, your personality is still the same. Hi, Kagami-san. Kaga, you've been waiting for so long, let's wake up the Admiral. Let him sleep. There was a conversation and the sound of footsteps, as if someone was gradually walking away. Then there was silence for a long time, and then there were voices again. They're all gone. Yes. Akagi, I want to say that the letter you left me was too much. Who asked you to go out and not come back for so long? This is already the 5th letter. The first few letters are very good. When I write another one, I will have to write a letter of severance. I mean, it's so immodest to leave a message. I'm sorry, no, I just want you to be angry. Well, actually I am also very troubled and have been influenced by the Admiral a lot. Kaga, after seeing the letter, are you worried about me? Yes, I wish I could kill you, I wish I could seal you with a talisman. Then come and kill me. Why did you become so playful? It only happens when I'm around you. It's very uncomfortable to act dignified. Don't lie to me, your modesty is innate. You found out, but you don't look happy. No. Kaga is thinking that if he had known better, if he had not left, it would have been better to serve as instructors in the academy together so that he could meet the Admiral earlier. Butterfly effect, if I stay in the academy, the Admiral will not go to the academy. Nonsense, the Admiral will go to the academy no matter what. Wait, did you hear the sound? The Admiral looks like he is about to wake up. The longer he slept, the more exhausted he became. When Sugu woke up, he was still in a fugue state. A little bit awake, I finally opened my eyes and saw a cold, unfamiliar face looking down from above. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 538. Holding the chopsticks in his hand, it was not difficult to pick up a glass ball in the water. Saratoga held a piece of chicken breast and put it into his mouth. His eyes were involuntarily drawn to the distance, where his favorite brother-in-law was. In addition to the brother-in-law, there were also Shokaku, Ziwakaku, Akagi, and Kaga, who had just returned to the tutelage. Kaga has gray hair and a tall but lean figure. Looking at Akagi again, she suddenly thought of something and giggled unconsciously. Lexington saw Saratoga suddenly laughing and looked confused. "Gaga, what are you laughing at?" The smile faded, as if she had discovered a big secret. Saratoga lowered her voice, "Sister. In the 1st and 5th aviation battles, only Akagi has the ring. Think about the differences between them. Akagi has the biggest breasts. First of all, think about the wedding ship, starting with everyone, then to Helena, and then to Akagi. We should find a problem. The brother-in-law only marries those with big breasts. Kaga is back, and there is another loser in the garrison." Lexington waved his hand. "Nonsense, think about Hood." Saratoga was displeased. "The Hood has cats." On the other side, for Sugu, he woke up from his daze and immediately saw a strange girl. As a wedding ship, Akagi knew that his admiral did not understand everyone's appearance. Of course, everything else is fine. "Admiral, guess who is back?" The delicate appearance is not like an oval face. It is better to say that it is an oval face, somewhere in between. The lips are very thin and pursed, giving people a cold feeling. She is tall, not to mention the fleshy girls like Bazai, Blucher, and South Dakota, but she looks slender and thin compared to many people. The ship girl is born from the memory of steel, and is born in response to expectations. The ship girl often has an explosive figure, and the opponent's chest is really a little ashamed. She wasn't dressed like in the game, so Sugu naturally couldn't recognize her, but the cold woman didn't embarrass anyone and uttered a few words. "Kaga, this is the aircraft carrier Kaga." The Kaga, Sugu remembered when he played the game, it was a very powerful aircraft carrier at first, with an exaggerated air capacity, but he was unable to build it at the time. Later, the formula for launching aircraft carriers in the game was changed, and Kaga immediately went from being a top-ranked ship girl to sitting in a position that was neither embarrassing nor lukewarm, ranking low. I became less interested in building it later. As for games, there aren't many emotions to talk about, it's just about who is better and who gets better. I don't know when Kaga came back, he just slept in the morning. When he woke up, Kagami appeared next to him. Before he could say much, the cafeteria bell rang. Anyway, everyone went to the cafeteria soon after, and as the admiral, it was natural for them to accompany them. Some people came and some left, and finally the 1st and 5th aviation battles sat together. Everyone has people who are close or distant, whom the admiral ignores and ignores. Like Fletcher, he will think of his sister first before anything else. Due to historical relations, even if there were basically no sorties or exercises together, the relationship between the seniors and juniors in the 1st air battle and the 5th air battle was extraordinary. With Ziwihi here, there is definitely no shortage of people who can make the atmosphere lively. She had brought several bottles of wine from the warehouse early and found glasses. "There's no sake. I remember Kaga-san likes sake bars. I don't think the red wine goes well with it, and the warehouse is all collected by the Prince of Wales. I'm too lazy to ask her about it, so I brought beer over." As he said that, Ziwihi gave Kagami poured the wine. "Sister Kagami, is it okay?" There was no way to fill a glass of beer, at least Ziwihi didn't have that kind of means. A glass of beer was half full of foam, and was about to overflow. Kagami picked up the beer in front of him, took a sip first, then drank it all, and said, it doesn't matter what kind of wine you are, watch what I do." Ziwihi coughed. She originally wanted to say, "to celebrate your return to the town hall, Kaga-san, Let's all drink a toast, but it was hard to say at this time. Ziwi sat down and said nothing, but Kaga finished her thought and raised the wine glass in her hand boldly. Admiral, and everyone else, I'll finish it, you can do whatever you want. Sugu looked at Jaga's cool movements and suddenly remembered the past when he drank wine and ate skewers with his classmates. He finished the beer in the cup and said, the feeling is deep, and I took a sip. Akaga didn't drink, she just showed a strange expression. Well, Kaga, you are fake Kaga. At this time, shouldn't you say, in this situation, why not have a few drinks with you? How about me? I am a concubine, I am a concubine, I am a concubine, and I am a concubine, but none of these titles are of any use. Kaga's glass was already empty. She shook the glass and turned her head to look at Akage. When did I ever use these weird self-identifications? Xianghe smiled tenderly on the side, and Ziwi didn't feel comfortable saying anything to his senior, thinking, it would be too shameless. Only Akage, whose usual dignified appearance was gone, teased his friends. I don't know who likes to tease people the most. I'm the second in the big one. Kagami's face turned red and his heart stopped beating. Old sayings are very interesting, but they seem strange when used in daily life. Although there is no need to live for others, it's just that the obscure old sayings are difficult to understand and cause trouble to others. Have you graduated from the second grade of secondary school? I have never been fooled. As a ship girl, when I wake up from the history and memory of steel, I will naturally be affected at first, so I like that. Akage blinked. Isn't it true that someone specializes in learning ancient language and grammar? Let me tell you, speak up if you have any ideas. The Admiral is very good at these. If you like it, he will definitely teach you. Otherwise, you will miss it. There would be no chance. Noticing Jiahe looking at him, Sugu quickly said, you asked me before how many points I could get for reading classical Chinese, but now I have given them all back to the teacher. As Akage's friend, Sugu often spends time with Akage. Hearing Akage's stories about Kaga, he also knew that he likes Kaga and likes ancient prose, proverbs, and poetry. However, now I really don't understand this. As if he didn't chew, Akage swallowed a big mouthful of rice. Admiral, if it's a poem, you should be able to say a few sentences. I can still say a few words. Ruhi felt excited, so she poured wine for others. Otherwise, the Admiral will tell you a poem about wine, and I'll have a drink. At least 10 poems, if not one, I'll have a drink, Admiral. Sugu grinned. Ruhi, what about you? Are you just watching the fun? I'll pour the wine. The wine-pouring girl. You can understand it that way. Sugu looked at Jiahe, who chuckled indifferently. Okay. Bargaining is natural, Sugu said. Kaga must be very good at drinking. 10 sentences is not easy. Kagami raised his eyebrows. Otherwise, Admiral, just say, I'll have 2 drinks and you'll stay the same. Okay, Jiahe has already made it this far, and he will lose his manliness if he backs down any further. Sugu is still somewhat confident in himself. The luminous cup of grape wine, if you want to drink the pipa, hurry up. Kagami didn't say anything, he was very direct, and he drank 2 glasses of beer. Sugu doesn't like drinking and has always believed that drinking is a process of hurting each other. It depends on whether you fall down first or I fall down first. Seeing that Kagami didn't show any coyness or reluctance at all, it felt like he didn't get the sense of accomplishment that comes from making someone drink. He looked at Akage again. There was a lot of food on the plate, and at Kaga, he still looked unsatisfied. For this pair, eat and drink, eat and drink. I advise you to drink another glass of wine. There will be no old friends when you leave Yangguan in the west. The only solution to worries is Dukang. Kagami continued to drink, but Ziwi didn't understand. What is Dukang? Sugu dismissed it. Ruhi, if you say you are uneducated, Tukang is Tukang wine. TCH, go on. When you are about to drink wine, don't stop drinking. Ziwihi retaliates, what then? No more, that's all. It's too short. Kill one person in 10 steps and leave no trace in 1,000 miles. When it's over, brush off your clothes and hide yourself and your name. When you are about to drink wine, don't stop drinking. That's pretty much it. Sugu laughed loudly. Ruhi, you are really uneducated. What's the meaning? What I just said casually was completely random. Sugu smiled as he spoke and looked at the people around him. No one seemed to hear anything wrong. Kaga had already drank, and there was no surprise or doubt on the faces of Akagi and Xianghe. Think about it, many ship girls, except for common sense, most of their knowledge is at the level of ordinary girls. Since I didn't go to school since I was a child, and all of them are Japanese ship girls, I do seem to be a bit of a bully. The drinking session actually didn't last long. Several bottles of wine were gone in no time. Ruhi smiled at Sugu and said, "Servant, serve the wine." Seeing that Sugu didn't respond, she said again, "What are you doing, the waiter in the shop?" Sugu was unhappy. "Okay, please wait a moment. I'll come as soon as I go." "Wrong, you shouldn't say that." "That's what I should say. You should say this, hey, little Susie will come as soon as he goes. Get out of here." Ruhi burst out laughing, and the dinner table turned into a battlefield between Sugu and Ruhi. Xianghe has been silent. She mainly has a gentle personality. As for Akagi and Kaga, just eat and drink. Akagi eat and drink, Kaga drink and drink, don't worry too much about anything else. Holding the empty glass, Kaga thought to himself that in ancient times, it would be just right to say a poem, drink a glass of wine, and play the game of hut. After finishing the beer and not taking any more, Kagami talked about his previous travel experiences. "I have been out for a long time and visited many places, including big cities and small towns. I even visited many ruins, ancient buildings, and castles. I also participated in several battles as a ship girl for commissions. I also encountered some petty thefts and robberies, but I just mentioned them casually here. I left at first to look for ancient books from the old world, but I didn't gain much from this." In short, her journey seemed ordinary. Until the end, she suddenly showed a pitiful expression to Sugu, which was baffling. "Admiral, speaking of which, I wish you good luck in advance." Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 539. Kaga's words were puzzling. Sugu was scooping up a spoonful of curry with a spoon. Before eating, he asked, "Why do you wish me good luck?" "Auspicious blessings, my family is safe. I encountered the snow wind on my journey. When Xiao Zai traveled alone, she was able to meet a lot of people and learn a lot of things. She even knew that Lexington was in Gishan, that Hood had opened a large company, and that Washington had become a lawyer. There is a connection between the ship girl and the admiral. They are also connected as sisters in the same garrison. They can always meet easily. Anyway, it is a mysterious connection that no one can explain." Seeing that Sugu's movements stopped, he continued, "I set out from Sichuan Show for a while and met Fei Ying, Falcon and Swafeng. I told them at that time that I wanted them to go to Sichuan Show, but they refused. Before coming back, I went to see them again and persuaded them again. This time they said they would consider it. Once, because of your departure, everyone became restless and hesitant, and the garrison fell apart. Now I am gradually getting used to it. In fact, everyone wants to get together. They said that if they come over, they should come before New Year's Day. If they don't come before New Year's Day, then they can't come." Sugu was silent when mentioning Swafeng. After a moment, he raised his head and said, "Auspicious, my family is safe, Well, I'm not afraid. While talking, I was thinking about the three major Japanese destroyers, Onobuki, Sasebo Shiger, and Kureyuki Kaze. Starting from the replenishment of guns, Onobuki was dedicated to giving the last blow to the ships in his fleet that had been hit by several bullets and had no chance of recovery, so that his companions could go to heaven. Relying on sinking teammates, it can almost be said to be the number one destroyer in tonnage sunk in World War II. Sasebo Shiger must be defeated whenever he fights, and he must run away whenever he is defeated. Of course, she was not really auspicious. She was eventually sunk by a submarine and did not survive the war. Wugang Suifeng is the real auspicious one. Few warships that sailed with her in history can return safely. Think of Yukikaze's skill in the game, which improves his dodge by absorbing the luck of his teammates. Also thinking of the game, Sugu said lightly, Suifeng only knows auspicious teammates, but not auspicious admirals. Rather than worry about me, I'd better worry about you. Kagami lowered his head, I won't go to sea with her anyway, so I don't have to worry. Ziwihi looked at Kaga and said, Sister Kaga, when did you first meet Yukikaze? Probably around September or October last year. After recalling for a few seconds, Akaga said, last September or October, I happened to meet the Admiral at the Academy. I saw the Admiral's test paper and also saw Lexington. With a smile on his face, Akaga thought back to the interview where the Admiral sang love songs and poems to him. This was the only thing he could do to win over Lexington. Meanwhile, Kagami tightened his grip on the glass. Sugu chuckled, that's right, Suifeng only knows how to bring good luck to his teammates. Kagami sneered, you may not have good luck either. Thinking of history and college life, Sugu breathed a sigh of relief. Historically speaking, the Yukikaze will not deceive the commander. The naval battle lasted for many years, and only a handful of Yukikaze's crew were injured and killed. In addition, my classmate owns the Yukikaze, and he has nothing to do with it. As an instructor in the college, Akaga knew the students more or less. She hesitated for a moment and said the opposite, that admiral's name is Daniang. Daniang and Suifeng are the same person. They just match each other. You are different, your name is Sugu. I remember you met him during the New Year, and you had a conflict with someone after the New Year. It was rare to see you conflict with someone, and in the end York City even had a drill with Ark Royal. Sugu retorted, it's different. When I participated in the internship as a freshman, conflicts arose, and it was not because of auspiciousness. Suifeng survived World War II and was handed over to the national government after the war and renamed Daniang. It is said that just after the handover, the nationalist government ushered in successive defeats, and many auspicious events occurred after that. However, despite the most terrifying auspiciousness, Sugu still firmly believed that these were far-fetched. For example, the national government is in dire straits. Compared to the chairman of the committee has no fighting capacity, so failure is a matter of course. Another example is the old Japanese Empire, which was said to have had its national destiny sucked away by the Yukikaze. However, a group of red deer and wild men like to be self-righteous and gamble on the fate of the country. Once they fail, they will be doomed. At the same time, if greed is insufficient, the snake will swallow the elephant, and the unjust war will be drowned in the vast ocean of the people. Especially if they are provoking the great United States, failure is inevitable. Despite Akaga's reminder, Sugu was dismissive, I'm not worried about Suifeng. She's only an auspicious teammate, and I won't go on an attack with her. I would only be worried if I built the destroyer William D. Porter. The unlucky destroyer in history also struck the president with lightning, causing everyone to be detained. Not to mention it was over, and later they bombarded the headquarters during the exercise modification. In the same game, there is the skill broom star, which reduces the luck value of the whole team. Games, history, and reality cannot be confused. However, William D. Potter, a little Lolita, is said to have an absolutely naughty personality. Every once in a while, it doesn't count if she doesn't cause an accident. Having set the tone that he must not team up with Yukikaze for an attack, Ziwakaku, as the lucky ship, was no longer so worried. However, she only knew that she would have no luck in teaming up with Swafen, and she didn't know anything else. After all, she didn't go to school, and she was actually worse than York City. She asked curiously, "Admiral, what happened to the teammates of the Yukikaze in the old history?" Sugu knew a lot about the famous Swafen in the past, and now that he has become an admiral and studied in the academy, he knows a lot about it. Sugu chuckled, "Let's start with the Hai first." As Yukikaze's main escort, the Hai was not only severely damaged in the first battle, but also suffered an air attack from the US military the next day. It was bombed to the point where it could no longer take care of itself and had to scuttle on its own. Besides, the enemy launched a torpedo at Yukikaze, but because the fixed depth was too large, the torpedo penetrated through the bottom of Yukikaze and hit Shentong. In short, none of the battleships Yukikaze participated in the escort was complete. Ruhi looked astonished, so magical. Actually, luck is a metaphysics and it's really hard to say. However, the history experienced by warships in the old world will affect today's ship girls. This is a real thing. After Sugu finished speaking, he got excited and explained, like the North House, the Tirpitz was called the Lonely Queen of the North in history, and she happens to be a house girl now. Like the eye girlhood, you need to wear eyes, and at the same time, if someone punches you, it will turn into a circle. Mainly because in history, the Hood mistook the Prince Eugen for Bismarck. When this kind of thing was mentioned, Sugu was happy and his voice became louder. The linear lines are beautiful, cool, and generous. The horsepower is sufficient, and the steps are as fast as flying. With a full row of 40,000 tons, the cricket Bismarck, what, the ammunition depot exploded. Showing off family background, money, and power is an interesting thing. Of course, forget about showing off and showing off knowledge. Sugu couldn't stop and continued, as for prestige, you all know it, dashing maid. It's a coincidence in history that every battleship named after prestige was launched into the water. It has performance or innovation that surpasses that of the warships of the same period. In short, you don't have to fire the cannons, but you have to install the weapons. I'm not targeting anyone, I'm saying that everyone here is rubbish. Across the Mediterranean and powerful in the Atlantic, I'm scared to death of German sticks. 2.5 times around the earth. What's the use of a thick-skinned battle patrol? Look at me 29 Nelsons. Ha ha ha. When it comes to the British Empire, Bismarck can't get rid of it no matter what. Sugu just took a mouthful of food and almost burst out laughing. The crystallization of German technology, the coquettish Panax Noto ginseng handheld machine, and the world's first sea valve. Sugu rubbed his face that was almost strained from laughing, and recalled the conflicts that often happened in the college, and even got into a fight in the end. If you don't talk about these, we still say auspiciousness, there is a problem. We put the Enterprise, Swafen, Prince of Wales, Prince Eugen, Warspite, Sheeger, Nauaka, and South Dakota form a team together. Who do you think will sink first? Ziwi asked, what does the Prince of Wales have to do with this? The Prince of Wales first attacked with Hood, and Hood sank. Then he attacked with counterattack, and sank together again. Their sinking happened to be one of the signs that aircraft replaced battleships as the dominant force on the sea, Su said while thinking. After Gu finished telling the story of the Prince of Wales, he thought about it again. Well, no, it seems that the Prince of Wales is not very good. Among these people, she should be the first to sink. The level of auspiciousness is average, and the luck is not very good. He didn't see Ziwi snickering, but only saw the girl biting her finger and asking again. The Saratoga seems to have survived until the war. She must be quite lucky. After taking a sip of seaweed and egg drop soup, which tasted good, Sugu shrugged, it's just a trick to trick Queen Saratoga. After the war, she was assigned to participate in Operation Crossroads. She was only slightly damaged in the air explosion of the nuclear bomb. The underwater nuclear explosion hit mortally wounded and sunk. Ahem. Suddenly a cough sounded. Admiral, that's great. It's so interesting to talk. Go on, we don't care. Anyway, we're just talking about battleships. We don't care at all. It's been cold these days, and the governor's mansion is also located in the south, where the humidity is heavy. The dampness makes people feel colder than the dry cold. Of course, in the cafeteria, as long as the cold wind can blow directly into the hall doors and windows, all are closed, and the warmth preservation measures are absolutely in place. Sugu also got dressed. It was impossible not to wear them. Lexington made it mandatory. Fortunately, he was not required to wear woolen pants. Normally the coldness can be ignored, but it still feels like the temperature has suddenly dropped. Sugu had already seen several shadows on the clean tabletop. He put his hands on the dining table and bent down a little, not daring to look back, trying to make his presence less noticeable. Ziwihi laughed on the side and muttered triumphantly, the 8th Kajiro type ship Yuki Kaze, Yuki Prince, everyone who is not convinced is lucky, why are you not willing to team up with me? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 540. Seeing Sugu's listless and wilted look, Ruhi smiled happily, took the chopsticks and poked Sugu's hanging head with the chopstick tip. Believe it, the auspiciousness of the snow wind will surround you. Ruhi's proud smile aroused Sugu's unwillingness to admit defeat, and he wanted to say a few heroic words, but after thinking about it, he decided not to give up. This time he tapped the head of his chopsticks on the table, and Ruhi said again, you didn't say anything, but you were so scared. Battleships and ship girls are inherently different. They just said, I immediately turned into a quail when I saw you. Continuing to hang his head and eat curry, Sugu suddenly felt that he was a bit like a strict wife now. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Each of the wedding ships is stronger than him. Even if we love each other more, we can't compare. The other party loves her wholeheartedly, but she has many wedding ships, but after all, she can't compare with him. Thinking of this, Sugufa raised his head mentally and said, it's not that HEP control is strict, I love them and let them go. Otherwise, if I give orders in the name of the Admiral, they would not dare to listen? Who in the guarding mansion would dare not to listen? Ruhi dismissed it and said, you can give the order to York City and I will accompany you tonight. Sugu raised his head and said in a serious voice, Ruhi, come to my room tonight. I'm afraid, tell me the secret. Ruhi Hefu laughed again, you said it was the Prince of Wales or Bismarck who was looking for you at night. I think it should be Saratoga. Seeing Sugu's miserable expression, Jiahe felt a little strange at first. However, he was his admiral after all. She shook the glass and asked, how about we get some wine and get drunk? Turning his grief and anger into appetite, Sugu took a few mouthfuls of rice and looked around. This time, there was no one around. He scolded, I am not a wife. Kagami smiled, and then told the story of meeting Fei Ying, Falcon, and Yuki Kaze. It's an ordinary story, but there are a few words that make people feel extremely familiar. Sugu smiled and said, you went to Kaiun Temple, we have been there too. Xianghe and Ruhi are in Lianghe County, as well as Tianlong, Longtian, and Xiaoxiang Leiden. As a very famous scenic spot, everyone has been there, so it's really not that strange. It's just that the difference in time was almost a year. Ruhi was familiar with the surroundings. She thought for a moment and said, "That's where they are. It takes a long time to get there from Hesheng." After Jia finished everything, Sugu paused, "By the way, it's not long before New Year's Day. As long as they come to Chuangziu and ask a little bit at the academy, they will definitely know the situation of the guard house. They can still miss the situation. There is no other way. If you don't see them after New Year's Day, go look for them again." Speaking of Kawahide, Kagami raised his eyebrows and said, "Speaking of which, I knocked down Akaga's door, but I just covered it up and came back." Sheik Hung said, "Remember you have the key, because of you, I have never changed the door lock." "My key can't open the door." Kagami suddenly laughed. "I remembered that I met a ship girl at that time. She probably thought I was a thief. She kept making a noise, and then I pinned her down on the table. It seems to be called the Colossus. She also said she knew you." Sugu felt funny when he thought of the girl who never stopped talking. "I met her when I went to Chuangziu some time ago, and I heard her complaining all the time without stopping. When someone asked her to do something, she was so happy that she ran away. Poor Colossus. Are you okay?" "It doesn't matter, she won't hold a grudge. It wasn't long after lunch, so I put all the plates, bowls, and chopsticks in the recycling bin." Xiao Xiang Liden walked by, and they saw Jaga not long after Jaga came back. "Sister Kaga." Xiao was the only one who had energy, and she shouted, "Sister Jajabi." Kaga stretched out his hand and pressed his fingers on Akatsuki's head like 9 white bone claws. "Little girl, who is your name?" Even in the cold weather, Sugu accompanied Jia for a walk around the town hall. On the way, he asked, "Are you going to stay with Akage, or do you want a separate room?" "Alone." Akage's satin-like black hair danced in the wind. "Kaga, have you abandoned me? After all, you are on a wedding ship now." Sugu explained, "Lexington and Saratoga, Bismarck and Bazai, they still share a room. It's different. They are not only sisters, they are also wedding couples." As soon as he stepped out, Sugu thought to himself, "It sounds like we have sisters enjoying it." Ruhi is afraid that the world will not be chaotic. He is always turning over cards. Whoever he turns over will be called to his room. He was already a veteran and would not be embarrassed at all. Sugu retorted, "Nonsense." After arranging everything for Kaga, Sugu left Akage's room when the Megama sisters, Tenryu Ryuada and Akatsuki Raiden arrived. When he returned to his room, he immediately saw Saratoga and Bazai sleeping in the kotetsu, eating snacks, talking and reading comics. Saratoga spotted Sugu first, and she said in a sarcastic tone, "Our busy man is back." Bazai couldn't take his eyes away and couldn't bear to turn his face. The strategy was a success. "What kind of strategy?" "If you want a strategy, you should do it early." Sugu snickered, closed the door, and got into the kotetsu amidst Bazai's complaints about it so crowded and Saratoga's full smile. Saratoga is not a girl with a good memory, and she has long forgotten the slander incident in the cafeteria. She said happily, "Kaga's flight deck is so beautiful." "Not sure why," Sugu said, "Kaga didn't unfold the ship's uniform." Saratoga smiled happily, "You must have seen it." Old Siji Bazai turned over a page of comics. "Admiral, you know how to pretend you don't know." As expected, the person from Bazai who knew me well made Sugu burst into laughter. Saratoga thought of something else. She said, "Brother-in-law, you were so kind to Kaga today, but you will definitely not be so nice in a few days. Do you think Kaga will feel a sense of disparity?" Lying down in the warm kotetsu, Sugu was not angry. "I'm good to everyone, and it won't change no matter how much I treat." Saratoga explained, "Brother-in-law, what I mean is that we are getting special treatment today. You have been with Kaga for most of the day, and you will definitely not be there tomorrow. You acted like a treasure the first day, but after a few days, you became abandoned. It's like wearing worn-out shoes. The higher you fly, the harder you fall. Baizai spoke again, her voice faint. I have worked so hard to return to the governor's mansion, even if it is only for one day. I hope I can get a little extra care. Sugu looked at Baizai. It's so profound. You are amazing. He took a deep breath and exhaled it slowly. We just returned to the town hall. Of course we need to care more about each other and understand each other. When they adapt to the life in the townhouse, of course they shouldn't be treated too specially. What can I do? There are so many people in the guardhouse who need care and worry about happiness. Jia, give me a persimmon. Baizai hit hard again. You still behave well when you get an advantage. Saratoga nodded. Baizai is right, it hits the nail on the head. As soon as the girl finished speaking, Baizai thought of the dirty side, and she started to giggle and bend her legs like a shrimp, to hit the nail on the head, hit the nail on the head. Saratoga didn't understand. Sugukeo was familiar with Baizai. This girl had completely fallen. He immediately picked up the pillow that was lying on his body and hit Baizai's head. You talk too much. Who is crying every time, Earth? You go and hibernate. Saratoga was indignant. You are talking slander again. It's not slang. While talking, Sugu fell back on the pillow, squinting his eyes and thinking that the palms and backs of his hands were all flesh, but a person with only 2 hands could be treated fairly. Nowadays, there are more and more people in the guarding mansion, and it is still easy to show signs of intimacy and alienation. It's so difficult to handle, and I'm so busy. I don't want to bother myself with the difficult problem of not knowing whether Fei Ying, Falcon Eagle, and Swafeng will come. If not, I will have to go out for a run again. If you come to Chuangziu and there is no one in Akaga's room, you don't have to worry. At least you still need to leave a message, otherwise it would be better to arrange someone to stay there. You can also ask Colossus to stay in Akaga's room for a few days. She is easy to talk to and warm-hearted. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 541. Reaching out to wipe away the fog on the glass window, Sugu looked out the window at the dense tree crowns swaying as the cold sea breeze blew by. I thought to myself that fortunately no deep-sea ship girl appeared, so everyone didn't have to attack and could stay indoors and enjoy the warmth. As an admiral, you shouldn't be afraid of fighting, and you shouldn't be afraid of deep-sea ship girls. However, he has always thought that there is a saying that is good: if you like war, you have no brains; if you forget war, you have no conscience. It's great to be able to live in peace and quiet. Admiral, here you go. In the coffee shop, Sugu sat back on the sofa and reached out to take the roasted sweet potato from the caring little house. After a pause, he wanted to grab Zai again. After all, it would be best to have a heater in his arms in the winter. However, Zai was quick to dodge his movements and even made faces at him. I have no choice but to eat sweet potatoes alone. Bumblebee, you lost again. When Sugu looked up, he saw Wichita standing up at the table, with her hands on her hips and her chest proudly raised. Even in the middle of winter and wearing a lot of clothes, Wichita's justice never lags behind. You win. Bumblebee was crestfallen, with Northampton comforting him. The two are not sisters, but they are better than sisters. Northampton always likes to sit quietly next to Bumblebee, and her personality is actually a bit weak. Bumblebee's character is a little out of the ordinary, but not out of the ordinary. She and York City gave the impression that the 3 York City-level sisters had all their IQs concentrated on the Enterprise. Atlanta was playing cards with Cushing. As the owner of the cafe she opened, she spent 3 days fishing and 2 days doing business. Now we all rely on Santiago for support, and Kent, a clerk who is not good at saying no, is a long-term clerk. Such as San Juan, Juneau, Princeton, Raiders, etc. In this cold weather, even York City has no interest in flying carrier-based aircraft. They do not work at all. "Admiral, would you like to have a drink to warm yourself up?" Sugu looked at the small wine glass placed in front of him, and then saw the tall gray-haired woman. "Kaga, don't get drunk again. As a ship girl, you will get drunk if you drink too much. Of course, if you think about it, once the ship is running and the boiler is burning, alcohol is just the fuel." But for Kaga, she always believed that drinking and using the power of a ship suit to cheat was the most unworthy thing to do. Just like this, she had a big drink a few days ago, got drunk, and acted like a drunk. "I was shouting that I was not drunk, but in the eyes of everyone, if I had to drag people to drink, I must be drunk. When it comes to embarrassing things, Kaga doesn't care. Last time, the alcohol content was too high, this time it's just sick. I don't understand what's so good about wine. I don't understand why some people don't like wine." Kagami drank it all in one gulp. "New fermented wine with green ants, small red clay stove. It's snowing late at night, can you have a glass of wine? Wine is a good thing." Seeing Sukbader walking by, Sugu reached out and took off the fur hat on the young girl's head. The short black hair like melon skin was exposed. He reached out and hugged her. "I have a small stove." Sukbader flailed in Sugu's arms. "Admiral, don't hug me, I'm not a child." Jaga looked around, placed the small wine glass in his hand on the head of Long Xiang, who was walking with Sukbader, and said seriously, "No, no, the small red clay stove should be used for scalding wine, not for warming up." His whole body trembled and he took a deep breath. Long Xiang shouted, "Kaga." The bone-chilling cold weather lasted for several days, and then gradually warmed up again. After all, the governor's mansion is located in the south, so no matter how cold it is, it won't be too cold. There was no such weather last year, so the warming is expected. As for why this happened, Sugu didn't know much about weather. Thinking about the most impressive passage about weather, he guessed it was the cold air moving south. New Year's Day has not come yet, daily life is slow, and this day Sugu promised Richelieu. In his room, Saratoga lay on the bed. "Brother-in-law, where are you going?" Wearing a neat white admiral uniform, Sugu straightened his collar, buttoned the sleeves, and put on his hat. Standing in front of the floor-length mirror, he made a few moves, chuckled, sneered, and smiled evilly. In fact, his appearance was only average to average, or above average at best. However, as an admiral, I have seen a lot of big things in the world, met many senior government officials, and talked and laughed with them. Nowadays, people's senses are given a different temperament, majestic and charming. I agreed to Richelieu's role as a model, and she wanted to paint a painting for me that could be framed and hung in the office. It's painting again. Can't Richelieu choose some reliable reason if he wants to find you? Saratoga swung her legs. Richelieu had always been at the top of her threat list. She had been unhappy for a long time, and again asked, "Is it the kind without clothes?" Sugu sighed, "I put on the admiral uniform specially, and you tell me not to wear any clothes." Saratoga is actually quite tacky and has no artistic talent. I think painting is better than taking pictures. Let Leipzig take a picture for you and it will be done in a few minutes. Saratoga became happy when she thought of something again. Take a black and white photo and frame it. Place a wreath next to it and write a letter to the heroic admiral for immortality. Before Sugu could speak, Lexington held up the book in his hand and hit Saratoga hard on the head. Saratoga put a hand on her head and rubbed it. "Sister, why are you hitting someone?" His long flaxen hair was tied up, and Lexington had a straight face. "What did you just say?" "It's a joke, I didn't say anything. My brother-in-law is still so young and in good health. He stays in the governor's mansion and won't attack. Well, if he also encounters the hatchet of Shurafield." Saratoga originally wanted to say nice things, but finally couldn't help it. "It's not a joke." Lexington was very taboo about this kind of thing. She looked at Sugu again. looking like she was thinking, by the way, there is a high possibility of encountering Shura Field. Sugu was immediately dissatisfied. Hey, Lexington, what did you say? Lexington chuckled and said, if the Admiral doesn't pay more attention, there is a really high chance that he will die under Gaga's hatchet. What? Sugu and Saratoga said in unison. Anyway, Sugu finished tidying up the Admiral's uniform in a short while, and Lexington helped him tidy it up again. I'm going to cut my hair in a few days. I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. That's enough, the Admiral is very handsome. My Admiral, go capture Richelieu. Just going to be a model. After leaving the room, Sugu first went to Richelieu's room. He saw Richelieu wearing a beret, with golden hair hanging loose, and a windbreaker that reached to his knees, with a black skirt and black trousers exposed underneath. Boots. He actually knew Richelieu's thoughts very well. Otherwise, most of the day would be spent chatting, and the progress in painting would only be 1, 2, 3, little by little. Richelieu could not respond to his feelings for the time being, but there were people who wanted him to respond. Since the weather is getting warmer, someone suggested that everyone have a barbecue. After getting approval, they prepared the ingredients in advance and prepared the marinated meat. Departing in the evening, we chose the beach outside the town's mansion. In the middle of the barbecue party, Sugu stood on the rocks at the beach. Admiral. Sugu turned around and saw Jia. Well, is there something wrong? How is it? Are you still getting used to it in the town hall? Very good, I like it very much. Everyone is lively and lively. In the past, when traveling alone, I was most afraid of being alone. It's just a pity that there is no one in the town hall to drink with me. Sugu jumped from the classroom to the beach. You can find the Prince of Wales. Forget it, she drinks and takes care of herself, and I happen to not be familiar with her either. Kaga came to him for a drink, but still refused decisively. Kaga left shortly after, and Akage came over. Admiral, I remember you still have 2 rings. How do you know? Akage pursed his lips. I gave you 1, Helena gave you 1, and South Dakota gave you 1. Helena only had an ordinary ring, and you gave Helena's ring to me. The ring I gave you, I have told you before that I hope you will hand it over to Kaga. You agree, right? When will you fulfill your promise? Sugu was shocked. Is there any? Akage nodded, yes. Sugu didn't answer. Akage, you are such a pimp. Returning to the barbecue scene again, Sugu saw Kaga sitting aside and drinking freely. He remembered the process of getting the ring from Akage. Speaking of which, I didn't agree to it at the beginning, nor did I seem to refuse it. However, no matter what, look at Richelieu, Washington, Ziwihi, etc., and directly give Kaga a ring. I am really afraid of the hatchet. In short, Akage's plan fell through. After the barbecue party, a few days passed, and finally it was New Year's Day.